Welcome race fans to our new show, Under Caution. I'm Heather and this is Puka. Please share our show out, like, or subscribe. And today, Under Caution is brought to our friends at Weir's Machine. Now, you can search them up at weirsmachine.com, and they carry all kinds of racing products, including my favorite, the Cornhole Scorekeeper with beer holders. Now, this is a fun way to keep track of the points because I know
beer is very important to her.
Well, the beer is very important, and I know when I start counting after I've had, a handful of drinks, those numbers.
Counting the score or counting the beer?
Counting the score, baby. Now, it's not necessarily his favorite game because he's not very good.
Sometimes he gets sick of winning,
Yeah,
Sometimes he gets sick of winning.
I know about that. He wouldn't necessarily know about that. But anyways, please check out weirsmachine.com and let him know that you heard about him on Under Caution. And now, Puka, you have some comments about Wisconsin late models?
Yeah, thank you. And the Legendary 100, was held recently, and 19 late models, pretty skinny. And so there's reason for, I don't know if the word is concern, or maybe it's the Corona term, an abundance of caution if you're a late model racer or you're a promoter in that area. But yeah, 19 cars, the Legendary 100, obviously the Legendary was Wazota 100. Legendary's been taking place for decades, and they only managed 19 cars, 3 nights of racing, getting paid every night. Now that was including John Cantu, who actually raced at Fergus on Thursday, didn't run really well, so came back. Like I said, managing just 19 cars. Hannesteds weren't there. Jake Tim wasn't there. Jim Brueggemann wasn't there. You could even throw the Franks, Mikey Prochnow. So even with them, you're getting into the mid-25s, which isn't necessarily a great number. And then I was even just thinking about, like, next year, Lance Matthews was there. Steve Larson was there. John Cantu was there. I mean, they're twilighting in their careers. How much longer are they even going to be around? So there's definitely a concern in Wisconsin.
That's a good point.
Yeah, there's definitely a concern in Wisconsin. Now, on the eastern side, in Seymour, Allegheny, they also raced. They managed 25 cars for a $1,500 to win show. So obviously much better. But if you drew kind of a line from, say, Eau Claire all the way to Green Bay, that's kind of that Wazota-ish area, because even most of the guys that are out east, most of them are Wazota legal. 44 cars, we're struggling, and you compare that with like Grand Forks up in North Dakota there. So on their last regular night pay on the 4th of September on a Friday night, 16 cars. Cedar Lake racing for 3 nights. Obviously it's a Legendary, it's a big event. It's a big one to win, as a driver.
Absolutely.
And there's 3 more late models only. And then if you contrast it with the Labor Day weekend, I think was called the Big Buck Nationals at Brown County Speedway in Aberdeen. They pulled off 23 cars for $3,000 to win, but they only paid one night, so it was one of those deals where it was heats on Friday, features on Saturday. Definitely, like I said, a reason for some concern in Wisconsin on the late model side. Now, how do we remedy this? Just some ideas. A handful of years ago, Rice Lake was still racing late models. I don't think there's any chance of the late models coming back at Rice Lake. Did it really generate a lot of interest in that area for late models? I know Tony Barr was involved for a while. There's probably some guys I'm forgetting, but the numbers were never really great. It never really generated as much local interest in the late models. But another track is Deer Creek. Now you're saying, well, Puka, Deer Creek, what are you talking about Deer Creek for? Deer Creek is in Minnesota. Deer Creek is in Minnesota. However, Deer Creek is near a fantastic track. As a matter of fact, I don't know if Race Promoters Monthly is still a thing, but they used to hand out promoters awards. I wouldn't be surprised if this year, if MTS were to, be one of the recipients of a regional award, as they've done a fantastic job. They've put themselves on the map in 2020, but MTS is not far from Deer Creek. So if Deer Creek went back to having late models, or if even MTS had late models, and then Deer Creek would come on, well, then you could have a little circuit down there in southeastern Minnesota, southwestern Wisconsin. Also, the idea that Shawano and Plymouth are racing late models every Saturday night, that's absolutely ridiculous. It's doing nothing for the sport. It has to end. People out there just need to pull their heads out of their you-know-whats. It's just detrimental to the sport. And, we just can't have it. And now the Dirt Kings adds another element in there, as I've seen on social media recently, or not necessarily recently, but about a month ago, where there has been talk that the Dirt Kings did quite a bit of traveling this year, came over into western Wisconsin. As a matter of fact, the aforementioned Mississippi Thunder there a couple of times. Some of the drivers are not as happy about that because when the Dirt Kings was initially thought of, they just kind of raced in that eastern Wisconsin area. So if they go back to that, obviously it's good for the eastern Wisconsin racers. They're going to race closer to home and have more higher paying shows, but that is going to hurt the drivers in western Wisconsin, even eastern Minnesota, that might race at some of those higher paying events. Now, it's not all negative. There is some good talent coming up in the late model ranks. If you look down in that southwestern corner of Wisconsin, you've got Jake Tim, you've got Dustin Sorensen, two guys that can really get up on the wheel, do a great job. In the Cedar Lake area, we've talked about him on the One to Go show. Jesse Glenns, he basically owns the place this year. James Nitro Giassi is a great racer. And then you go out into eastern Wisconsin, that Kyle Redant has won some races this year, a young guy. And even that Mike Mullins. Now, Mike Mullins is not necessarily a young gun, but he's a guy that's won a lot of races in a modified. He has a lot of racing experience, but he doesn't get in the late model all that much. It'd be nice if he got a little bit more consistent. You'd add not just a driver, but a quality driver and a person that can draw a fan. I mean, all the drivers I just mentioned, as far as these young guns, would be good at, drawing a crowd. Now, speaking of young guns, the other thing I got to thinking here in Wisconsin, on the pavement side, now I don't follow pavement racing, but on the pavement side, there's been legends that have come out of Wisconsin in NASCAR. Dick Trickle's a Wisconsin boy. Matt Kenseth, remember when we met Matt Kenseth out in Pennsylvania at Pocono, former champion, etc. These are Wisconsin guys. Well, now you've got this Derek Kraus, who's racing in the Truck Series, and just a weekend or two ago, that Sammy Mayer won a truck race, actually the second youngest ever to win a truck race at age 17. He actually just signed a deal recently with JR Motorsports with Junior to race in the Xfinity Series for Junior next year. But these, so there's talent on this asphalt side, and these guys are kind of moving up and out as far as their careers. So we have heroes on the pavement end. We hope that on the dirt end, the late model numbers don't go to zero, and that's all I have to say about that.
Well, thank you, race fans, for joining us here on Under Caution, and we'll see you next time. Don't forget to share us out and like or subscribe.
Thank you.
Bye.